Welcome!
One day, you begin to understand that English is not only a school subject with exercises, rules, and tests. For a long time, maybe you saw it as something far from real life, something that belonged only to classrooms, books, and homework. But then a different idea enters your mind and stays there. You start to see that English can connect you to jobs, travel, new people, and a stronger version of yourself. In that moment, the language stops looking small, and it begins to look like a door. You notice this truth in simple ways at first, but each one leaves a mark on you. Maybe you hear someone speak English with confidence and see how easily they move through a conversation. Maybe you watch a video, read a sign, or imagine yourself in another country, and suddenly English feels alive and useful. You understand that this language can help you ask for help, make friends, understand the world, and enter places that once felt distant. It is no longer just about passing a class. It is about building chances for your future, one word at a time. That realization changes something inside you because it touches more than your memory. It touches your dreams, your confidence, and the way you think about your own future. You begin to understand that learning English is not a luxury for other people with more money, more time, or more talent. It is an opportunity, and opportunity matters because it can change the direction of a life. The language may still feel difficult, and your level may still be simple, but now the reason is stronger. You are no longer learning only because someone told you to learn. You are learning because you begin to see what English can give. This is the first big moment of the story, because this is where your decision is born. You may still feel afraid, uncertain, or slow, but something important has already changed in the way you see the language. Before, English looked like an obligation. Now it starts to look like a tool, a bridge, and a source of possibility. That shift is powerful, because people often change when the meaning of their effort becomes clear. Once you understand that English can open real doors, the language stops being only another task. It becomes something worth taking seriously. So this is the day when you stop treating English like a temporary duty and start treating it like a real part of your life. You do not become fluent in one afternoon, and your pronunciation does not become perfect in one moment. But you make a deeper choice, and that choice matters more than one good day of motivation. You decide that this language deserves your time, your voice, and your attention. And from that decision, something new begins to grow, not only better English, but also a stronger belief that your future can become larger than your fear. At the beginning, fear feels bigger than your voice, and that can make every English word seem heavy. You feel embarrassed when you make mistakes, afraid when your pronunciation does not sound the way you want, and insecure when you try to speak in front of other people. Sometimes even a simple sentence can make your heart beat faster, because you worry about sounding wrong. This fear is real, and it can make you want to stay quiet instead of trying. But slowly, you begin to understand that fear is not always telling the truth. The fear inside you often says that mistakes are dangerous, but in reality it is trying to protect you from feeling uncomfortable. It wants to keep you safe, hidden, and quiet, because quiet feels easier than growth. But when you look more carefully, you see that staying too safe also keeps you small. If you never try, you never learn what your voice can become. If you never speak, you never give your pronunciation a chance to improve. That is when you begin to understand something important. Your fear is not your future, it is only your reaction to the unknown. Then comes a day when the fear almost wins, and this becomes the light climax of your journey. You hear yourself making mistakes again, and for a moment you think, maybe I will never speak well. That thought feels heavy because it attacks your hope, not only your grammar or your pronunciation. You almost decide to stop trying, because stopping feels easier than feeling embarrassed one more time. In that moment, it seems like everyone else is moving forward while you stay in the same place. But this is also the moment when a new truth begins to grow. You remember that every fluent speaker started somewhere, and that somewhere was not perfect. Every strong voice once sounded weak, every clear sentence once sounded broken, and every confident speaker once had fear too. No one was born speaking English fluently without mistakes, confusion, and practice. This thought does not remove all your fear, but it changes its size. You begin to see that mistakes are not proof that you cannot learn. They are proof that you are already in the process of learning, and that changes the meaning of every difficult moment. From that day on, you still feel fear, but you no longer believe every message it sends you. You understand that your future is bigger than the embarrassment of one wrong word or one weak sentence. Your pronunciation can improve, your confidence can grow, and your voice can become stronger if you continue. The fear may still walk beside you for a while, but it no longer has to lead your steps. And that is when something powerful begins inside you. You stop asking if you will ever speak perfectly, and you begin asking what will happen if you keep going. After some time, you begin to notice small changes that may not look dramatic from the outside, but feel very real inside you. A sentence that once sounded too fast now makes more sense when you hear it. A question that used to scare you now receives a short but clear answer from your mouth. You still make mistakes, and you still need time sometimes, but something important is different now. Your English is starting to move with more courage, and that changes the way you face everyday moments. One day, this becomes clear through a simple situation that would once have made you freeze. Maybe someone asks you something in English, or maybe you need to ask for help, directions, or information. Instead of stopping for a long time, you understand enough to stay in the moment and respond. Your answer is not perfect, but it works, and that is what matters. The conversation continues, and you leave it feeling surprised, because you used your English in real life. In that moment, the language becomes more than something you study, it becomes something you use. That is the first real climax of this motivational path, because now you see the power of the language in practice. English is no longer only grammar, vocabulary, and exercises on a page. It has opened one small door in front of you, and that small door shows you a much bigger world behind it. A short conversation, a small opportunity, or one useful interaction can change how you see your own future. You begin to understand that every new phrase you learn is not only a sound to practice. It is also a key that may open something important later. As this feeling grows, you notice that English is changing more than your speaking. It is also changing your possibilities. When you understand more, you can move with more confidence in places that once felt closed or distant. When you speak a little better, you can ask, answer, explain, and continue instead of staying behind in silence. The language begins to affect your choices, your courage, and your sense of freedom in daily life. That is when English stops feeling like theory and starts becoming a real-life tool. From this point on, your motivation becomes more solid because now it is connected to experience, not only imagination. You no longer need to guess if English can help you, because you have already felt it happen in a true moment. A sentence understood, a question answered, or a door opened is enough to prove that the effort has meaning. And once you feel that proof, your learning becomes more personal and more alive. That is the point where your English journey begins to change shape, because now you know it is not only teaching you to speak. It is teaching you to step into a larger life. Then a harder phase arrives, and it changes the feeling of the journey in a deep way. The progress that once felt exciting now begins to look slower, and your motivation does not stay as strong as before. Some days you study and feel almost nothing, as if the language is not moving at all. Your pronunciation still needs work, your confidence is not always stable, and your mind becomes tired of repeating the same effort. This is the part where many people begin to think about stopping. In those difficult days, comfort starts calling you back in a very soft and convincing voice. It says that you can rest today and return tomorrow, and then tomorrow says the same thing again. You begin to imagine how easy it would be to leave English for later and go back to the old life where nothing asked so much from you. That thought can feel tempting, especially when your energy is low and your improvement seems too quiet to notice. But deep inside, another truth is beginning to grow. A hard day does not mean you are failing, it may mean you are building something deeper. This becomes the second big climax of your path, because you finally understand that difficult days also have value. They are not empty days, and they are not wasted days if you continue, even in a smaller way. On easy days, Motivation helps you move, but on hard days, something stronger is being trained inside you. Discipline is growing when you keep going without excitement. Confidence is growing when you continue speaking even without perfect results. And fluency is still growing too, because repetition on a difficult day teaches your mind to stay close to the language under pressure. Slowly, you begin to see that learning English is also changing your inner life, not only your vocabulary. The language is teaching you patience, because real progress does not always look dramatic. It is teaching you humility, because mistakes still appear even after many good days. It is teaching you courage, because you keep showing your voice even when it still feels imperfect. In that way, your English journey becomes something larger than language practice. It becomes a place where you are also learning how to stay steady inside yourself. By the time this hard phase begins to pass, you are not only a better learner of English. You are also a stronger person than before, even if the strength arrived quietly and without applause. You have learned that difficult days do not destroy progress unless you stop completely. In fact, those days often build the deepest kind of progress, the kind that stays because it was earned with patience and honesty. That is when you finally understand a beautiful truth: growing in a language is also growing inside your own character. And once you learn that, you stop fearing the hard days so much, because now you know they can build you too. At the end of this journey, you begin to understand that speaking English with more fluency changes more than your communication. In the beginning, maybe you thought the language would only help you say more words, answer more questions, or understand more audio. But now you can see that something deeper has happened inside you. Your courage has grown, your view of the future has become wider, and the way you enter new spaces feels different. English is no longer only something you study, it has become part of how you move through life. Your pronunciation improves because you kept using your voice, even when it felt weak at first. You repeated real phrases, listened carefully, and gave your mouth time to learn the sounds step by step. Little by little, your words became clearer, and your fear became smaller. That change did not come from one perfect day, but from many ordinary days when you chose to continue. Because of that, your confidence now feels more honest and more solid. It is not the confidence of someone who knows everything, but of someone who has practiced enough to trust the path. This is the final climax of the story, because you now understand that your voice can go farther than you imagined. It can help you enter new conversations, ask new questions, understand new people, and move toward opportunities that once looked too distant. The language changes your future because it changes your courage first. When you are less afraid to speak, you become more ready to step into places that once felt closed. And once your voice starts opening those spaces, your world begins to grow with it. That is the real power of English in your life. You also discover that the change did not begin when your pronunciation became better or when you finally understood more. The real beginning happened much earlier, on the day you decided not to give up. That decision was the first door. Before that moment, English was only a possibility. After that moment, it became a path, and every repeated word, every small mistake, and every hard day helped shape it. Your voice changed because you stayed with the language long enough to let it change you too. That is why the result feels real now. So in the end, you do not only speak with more fluency than before. You also stand with more courage, look ahead with more hope, and trust your ability to keep growing. Your English is still moving forward, and there is still more to learn, but now you know something important that cannot be taken from you. Your voice has power, and that power becomes stronger every time you choose to continue. The true power of English in your life does not begin when you sound perfect. It begins on the day you decide that your future is more important than your fear.